Yes, you are early.
Where's the
And
first
we're
gangsters,
live
bro?
for Christian Activity Season 1, Episode 5 of British Railways Diesels. Today
British rates.
we will be discussing about how British Railways made a lot of terrible bad diesels like that were made since the 1950s to present, because a lot of diesels were extremely questionable. Even though it
Yep.
went defunct in 1997, and they were supposed to play some of the steam engines, but due to a lot their extremely troubles that were taking it to the extreme, they failed, and the steam age on British Railways age of steam ended between September and October of 1968, and the Black Fives were the last to go.
I see. Okay, so which is the first one we're gonna talk about? Which
We're
is
going to
one?
talk about the British Railways class 42 and 43 warship class.
Okay.
You should start.
All right. Okay. So, all right. Hold on. Let me just give me a second because I actually wrote some little bit of notes because I remember I used to search stuff about these
So
diesels.
the actually, yeah, you can start in
All right.
on.
What do we know about these diesels? First of all, well,
They were the
as
basis
well,
of Diesel 10.
yeah, there were actually some of the classes, but they actually have a
They
lot
were
of
diesel
British classes.
hydraulic electric locomotives that were
Some of
introduced in
them,
1958.
yeah, it actually
And it
turns
was
out that
apparent
these
at
ones
that
were actually
time the
operated
largest
between the
center
year.
of
Yep.
expert size diesel hydraulic locomotives was in West Germany. The western region of British Railways negotiated a license with German manufacturers to scale down the German Federal Railways' V200 class, designed to suit the smaller loading gauge of the British rail network, and to allow British manufacturers to construct the new locomotives.
Yeah, and first
The
of all, like,
resultant design bears a close resemblance, cosmetically and in the engineering employed, to the original V200 design.
yep, exactly. And but before we get to most of the disasters, let's go with something else. Let's go with talk about these how these diesels different than like how it was today. So back then in the 1950s, like British Railway decided to make new other
Hey,
engines.
Alan.
British back then used to make steam engines. Remember, like the E2 class locomotives, just like basically on Thomas, right?
No, the London, Brighton, and Southwest Railway actually built the E2s too.
Oh, the
And we
E2s
all
then.
know that Gresley designed the A3s, A1s, and A4s, and P2 and V2 Prairie types.
Okay. And
And also
also,
Edward Thompson with the is V problematic V2/1 and A2/2 Pacifics.
okay, but like first of all, let's talk about most of the engines and how
Let's
they're
talk about
different
most
in
of the
other
diesels
countries.
that British Railways made. Let's continue the 42 warships.
Yep, of course, that one. I was about to say that. But anyway, so most of the British Railways they made these kind of early diesels back in like in the year 1955 to
Next,
1968. It says here, and according to this, it was actually a British Rail 10100. Actually, it's like one of those type of British rails that they used to wear.
the result design bears, and yeah, and the warship locomotives were divided into two batches. Both built at BR Swindon Works were numbered in the series D800 to D832 and D866 to D870, and had a maximum tractive effort of 52,400 pounds force, 233,000, and eventually became the Class 42. And 33 others, number D833 and D865, which were constructed by the North British Locomotive Company and became British Railways Class 43. But we're not talking about the high speed A train in HST intercity high speed train. We're talking about the Class 43 warships, because the Class 43s, they were terrible, but the Class 42s, they were successful. And they
Were there
were,
even more worse than the other British Army fleets too? Because I remember British Army fleets
yeah,
actually
and they
had.
were allocated to Bristol, Bath Road, Plymouth, Lara, and Newton Abbot, and Old Oak
Oh,
Common.
okay. Okay. And also, like, this is something else that I also learned because back then, British relied on these ships because of the First World War. That's what I heard. Because they were afraid that if, Germany would destroy their ships, that they're not going to defeat the Germans, that kind of way. And many Americans didn't join the war. Like, we didn't get involved in the war till 1917, about 3 years later. And the reason we got into the war was because they sunk the Lusitania, actually, because they sunk the Lusitania, and also because they said They also wanted Mexico to see it to attack the United States. But luckily, the British got the Germany intercept, and they intercepted. They got it to America, and now it's last straw. And American warships started heading towards Europe to defeat the Germans, and that's how we got in war because of that, because of those two events.
Yeah, and let me
Is it
explain
World War
about
One
how
about the
the
German
Class
Empire?
43
Yeah, German
warships
Empire.
were
Yep,
built because
that's
the
not
Class 42 warships, at Swindon Works, while they manufactured the Class 42 warships, they didn't cut corners, which means they didn't have any problems. But with the Class 43s at North British Rail Works, they did cut corners. That makes them more failures.
Yeah, and also some of the British back then, like in with the whole entire thing of the war, actually they had like actually British was actually the one that actually spent a lot of more stuff. Like they invented new technologies, new tanks, new machine guns, you name it. The British actually earned so many, you know. And their war fleets, however, was actually valuable to Germany, including you know, also to
Yeah,
who
and also with the Class 43 warship, British Railways Class 43 warships and operational service, the NBL locomotives were less reliable than their Swindon-built cousins, and the mild steel was used for the exhaust manifolds, and these components were prone to fracture. Not only did this result in a loss of exhaust pressure to drive the turbochargers, but also the driving cabs rapidly filled with exhaust fumes.
There's also another way about the British Admiralty. Actually, they call it the British Admiralty back then in the First World War. And these British ship warships, actually, according to here, it says they had 36 in total of British warships at the time. It says some of them were from in alphabetic order, actually, or in other words, alphabetical order from one to Z. You know, some of them flagged a lot. You know, like because since they were UK, obviously they were have to have the UK flag back then. And ships back then need a flag because if they don't have a flag, then that means they're illegals, you know, like that kind of way how it was back then, you know. If British people didn't have those kind of flags, then they would be by a British police or anything like that. That's what it says here. They also call it the HMHS or HMS actually, for example. Short for wait, what's it the HMS? Like what's it short for actually? Hold on, let me search it up. HMS.
Hey guys, also right now Alex is
It's
on
also
an
called. It's
Instagram
also
call
short
with
for His
me.
Majesty's ship.
Listen,
Actually, they call it the His Majesty's ship. You know,
Hey
short for
guys,
HMS. And most of these fleets were
how you
actually
doing?
during the war. You know, they were there
Look,
to
Hey
you-
Alan,
protect
your
the British.
headphones is on. Check it out. I cannot say. They not say hi to me.
What's
that
going
was
on?
Alex, cause I'm in an Instagram call with him. Look,
Oh, okay.
Hey,
So,
what's up? What's
Alicia,
up?
what's up? Anyway,
Yeah.
Alicia, go ahead.
Hey
Go
Alan,
ahead.
you
Let me
ain't
talk
hear
about the
that.
class.
Unmute this
Let me
thing.
talk about more about the Class 3
my
warships, about
my
more of their
AirPods
problems.
disconnected.
And not
Yeah,
only
for
did
yeah.
this result in a loss of
What's up?
fracture, and the man-built engines used in the German DB Class V200 design had nickel-resist steel manifolds and were far less troublesome. And the engine design also suffered
Hey
from being
Roger.
quite highly rated for a design with no active piston cooling, and pistoning life expectancy was decreased as a result.
Yep, of course.
And
That
as a
also.
result, none of these engines actually survived into preservation, while the Class 42s
Still.
were survived because they were retired, scrapped, and cut up and gone, and with two being preserved from 1968 to 1972, with number 821 Greyhound and 832 Onslaught.
Yes, and also these
Yeah,
trains.
and also,
Uh-huh.
and around
Hey Alan.
1971, an approach was made by a diesel traction group seeking to
Alex
purchase
said
the
hi.
Class 22 D6313, and a price was agreed. But before the new owners could retrieve their purchase, it was accidentally scrapped at Swindon Works. Because British Railways, embarrassed, uh, offered the two B owners their choice of the remaining warships: D18, D812, D823, and D832 for the same price. And D821 was chosen as it was in the best mechanical condition, thus became the first British XBR mainline diesel locomotive. And
Yes.
D821 entered preservation on May 24th of 1973.
Were
And
they class 40s back then?
D818 became a pet of the employees at the Swindon Works and was repainted from British Rail blue with a fur full yellow and back to its original green livery. And there was some hope that it would eventually be preserved, but this did not happen, as the locomotive was scrapped before the works closed in 1985. And I can
Yes.
imagine if they actually preserved it like at the National Railway Museum, it would have been a better home for the locomotive.
Yep, of course. And also, I also learned about something else about
And-
the British Admiralty too. Actually, according to here, according to this, before World War One actually broke out, it had an incident back then, which is called the HMS Hawk. According to here, it says on September 20th, 1911, a military ship called the HMS Hawk actually collided with Titanic's sister ship, the Olympic. The damage wasn't as bad as what they thought
But-
it was.
But
But
we're
it
not
did- but
talking
it-
about these types of ships. We're talking about the British Railways diesels. That's the topic
Oh,
for
sorry.
today.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I apologize. For this.
Yeah. So about
But like
the,
also
about the
another one,
Class
another one.
42 warships. Another one, D829, had gained popularity status due to its
Yeah.
appearance on the popular British TV show of the same name, Magpie. And there was an attempt to preserve the engine.
Hey
The plans
guys,
to save the
Alex
engine
said hi
were
as well.
unsuccessful and they failed, and the engine was scrapped. And imagine
it was also
they would have
scrapped
kept
too.
it out of
What
storage.
about the class 40s? That's the thing. Like the class 40s actually were scrapped or no? That's the thing.
Hey, my
Yes,
brother and
and
Elijah.
two,
Alex
and
said hi in the call.
8 and the Class 42 warship 832 Onslaught was actually preserved. And both locomotives are
They hate
operational
you.
with D821 on the Severn Valley Railway and D832 on the East Lancashire Railway. And in fiction, a part of having appeared in the TV series Magpie, a character based on this class named Diesel 10 made his debut in the Thomas and Friends series feature-length movie Thomas and Magic Railroad. And Diesel 10 had an added hydraulic claw on his roof named Pinchy, which in reality would be considered illegal for adding a movable part on a locomotive.
That is true. Actually, they did actually.
Now
wanna
let's
make
talk
that.
about the Class 40s, which are.
Oh yes, I want to talk about that.
D261.
I actually have them. I actually have it. Hang on.
You should talk about them.
Hey, Manuel
Yes,
and
okay,
Elijah, you heard Alex said hi
Okay,
in
so-
the Instagram call.
Class 40s. Okay, so like this is something interesting that I also found out. The class 40 was also in a actually Thomas episode called Balled Out. That's what I know.
With
it was
Brawler,
class 40.
aka Diesel 261. And also,
Yep,
Brawler
that
is
too.
actually his real name. Some call
Yep.
him Andy and all that.
Yeah, in the real they made him named like that, but in the model series they just took out the name actually. But
I wish
this
they
is
named it
about the
Brawler
British
and
Rail
put it to
class
Andy.
40s actually. Between the year 1958 and 1962, they were numbered as D200 and D399. They were, for a time, the pride of the British Railways, the British Rail's early diesel fleets. However, despite their initial success, by the time the last examples were entering the service, they were already being replaced by some top-level duties by more powerful locomotives, such as the new BR service, actually, for example, or the or the Great Train Robbery, actually, from 1963.
Yeah, and the
Right.
Class 43 HST Intercity,
Yep.
HST Interspeed High Speed Train.
Yep, that's too. That too.
And the Class
But
800s,
That's
which
more.
were also terrible.
yes, there was also some of them were terrible and some of them right here. It says the originals of the Class 40 fleet lay in the prototype diesel locomotives such as Elmas number 100,000 and 10,001, ordered by London and Midland, and of course the Scottish Railway too, including the two. And the D62 actually were ordered there in 1947 and
Yeah.
1954.
Yeah, I'm still here.
And most of these engines would be able to be the class of everyone nowadays actually. And there is a photograph about one of these engines. Is it fine if I show you guys the photo? Is it fine if I show the photo, Alicia?
Yeah, you can show the photo.
Hey guys,
okay.
did you hear Alex say hi in the Instagram call that I'm in with him?
Yeah, here it is. Let me just find it. Hang on, just give me a second. I just need to find it. Hang on. Just,
Hey, what's up?
all right, here it is. This is the engines that we're talking about. Look, these are the Class 40s back then. There's also taking a picture in 1963.
Because I'm using my phone, I don't know how to actually screen share it because I'm on Safari.
No, it's
because
okay.
you can at least show it with your camera.
Yeah, yeah, true. But either way, if anyone's watching this, they can see it actually. But the class locomotives that we're talking about, these ones. And
Yeah,
however,
and
sad. It would be sad because first of all, they ended up being scrapped. However, somewhere between
yeah,
19.
and they were withdrawn, and one was withdrawn in 1967. Uh,
Yeah.
and one was withdrawn in 1967. Yeah, and also they were withdrawn between 1976 and the rest were withdrawn between 1976 to 1988. And
Yeah, of course, that too. That too. But by the
yeah,
way,
and 7 of them were preserved while the remainder were scrapped. And the real
British
Diesel
Railways were
261 was scrapped. But
two actually,
imagine
according.
preserving it. Imagine preserving it like at the National Railway Museum. It would be a
Yeah,
nice
true.
home for that engine. And what would
I
have
mean, yeah,
been
it would be.
used for the Day Out with Thomas events.
True. They also would be
And they would
participating
name it
in those-
Brawler. And they would name it Brawler. The same Thomas came from the Railway series.
Yeah, from Balled Out from season 4 episode.
Now, who wants to talk about one of the most popular diesels, the Class 8? Switchers that
Oh!
look like Diesel, Airy, and Burt, Splatter, and Dodge.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Cactus and the great
Yes.
and the great 8-race diesels.
Yep.
Do you know
What
any
are they called again?
information about it?
Class 40s? Like what
The
what they
class
call it?
British Railways Class 08. The shunter,
08.
the
Oh,
electric
okay.
the Class 8.
Oh, the class 8. Oh, okay. I got it.
They were electric shunting locomotives.
Yeah, they're actually. Yep. All right, I got it. You want me to talk about it? I got them.
Yeah, the British Railways Class 08 with
Okay,
08.
Before we talk about most of the history of this stuff, let's talk about like what are these kind of diesels that we're talking about. Well, these diesels were actually built in the British Railway. That's one thing. They were also
Yeah,
built in
they were a
Crewe
class of
before
diesel
Henry
electric
got his
shunting locomotives
accident
built by
flying
British
Kipling.
Railways. And since their introduction in 1952, the nature of rail traffic in Britain has changed considerably. Freight trains are now mostly fixed by rakes of wagons, and passenger
But
trains
how are
mostly-
these more? How are these
mostly
engines
are-
different though? Well, because
That's
these are
everything.
actually diesel electric. Actually, they were diesel electric according to here.
It's a,
And according to here, their introduction was actually in 1952. But however, the nature of the rail traffic in Britain has changed like considerably because during out the whole entire years that happened. Freight trains are now mostly fixed rakes, actually, according to here. And passenger trains were also being served by those type of diesels or driving van trailers, actually, back then. But
they're
throughout the
over 996 of them were produced.
Yeah, some of them were
996,
produced
that's a lot.
996. Yep, that's a lot. That's actually one of the most.
Imagine
Like
a
most of the
1,000.
produced
Just
engines
imagine
in
1,000. Just imagine 1,000. Just imagine 1,000, and then it would have been even more impressive and epic.
That would be a world record there, honestly. That would be a world record.
They were built between 1952 to 1962.
And most of these
They only
classes-
can reach 15 miles an hour and 20 to 20 miles an hour, and a truck trailer of 35,000 pounds.
Yes, exactly. But also, like most of these engines, however, were also for any other site. Like it's not just like shunting, like shunter diesels. Actually, they were there to just shunt the trucks, shunt the coaches, that kind of way. Just like how Thomas was back in season 1.
Yeah, and some of them are used for branch lines. 82 have been preserved. 10 of them were converted to Class 09s, and also 6 were converted into Class 13s, which were one of the weirdest successful trains. And 15 exported to Liberia in Africa, and 100 of them are in service, and the remainders were scrapped.
And most of the brakes were actually different than other locomotives, according to here, because the train brakes back then were vacuumed. Actually, later air vacuum or air, honestly, because back then brakes were not like brakes are.
And
applied by
also
using
the Class
pressure,
13s. The Class 13s, 3 of them were only produced and they were rebuilt from the Class 08s in 1965. They still had a max speed of 20 miles an hour. Tractive effort at 70,000 pounds. That's like higher, like 40,000 times stronger than the Class 08s. And like Union Pacific 844's tractive effort. I mean, how small would they get strong with that?
Well, that would be something that we've never seen before. Because first of all, like,
But
most
we
of
all
these-
know that 611
Yes, of
we
course.
all know that some steam locomotives are more powerful than the British Railways Class 13s, like the the infamous Pennsylvania S1 and USSR AA-20, and also the Norfolk and Western 611 at
And don't
80,000
forget about the
pounds,
GG1s though. What about the GG1s?
and the
Don't forget.
GG1s too,
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
Amtrak General Electric E60s at 100 miles an hour, which I don't
Yeah,
like because they failed miserably. We may talk
yeah,
about
most of them
those
fail.
and this in the not too distant future, and and they and the shunters were permanently compared in master and slave formation, which the slave unit having had its cab removed. Both units were then ballasted to improve traction. Initially coupled cab to cab, it was found more flexible to
And
couple
also, a
master
lot of people
mills to
don't know
cab
about much of
slave
diesel
cab.
engines and what they're made. Like how are they different than steam engines? Well, steam
And
engines back then used to be coal. They used coal and water to to move. But
some of
diesels
some
they
of them
require
use
oil.
wood and oil. Some of them uses
Yes.
wood and oil, especially in the
Yeah, some
western
of them were used
United
wood,
States.
some of them were used oil. Yeah, exactly.
And imagine if
Exactly.
one used electric.
I
I
mean,
think it'll be.
electric. I mean, like first of all, that would be a rural worker. Like I would think
Yeah,
about the
I think
environment.
that would be impossible. But I found this 060 switcher type steam locomotive because thankfully I watched from History in the Dark. There's an 060 switcher type steam locomotive that was originally an electric locomotive and was one of the weirdest successful trains ever. And they transformed it into a conventional steam locomotive.
Exactly. Yep. But also these British trains, like these diesel locomotives, they had a good career. Some of them had good career, others did not have, honestly. Which
Because of their teething troubles and the rise of
yeah,
diesel
the teething
modern
troubles. Yeah,
diesel
just like from that season 5 episode of
Hey,
Thomas
double
Shelby.
teething
Elijah,
troubles with Derek.
Yeah,
the
with
And we may
thumbnail
talk, and which
on the
Derek is
live
based off
stream is the
British
British
Railways Class
diesel, just like
17
Diesel
Paxman,
10.
which we may talk about, and
yeah, exactly.
and
Oh,
also they were retired between 1981 to 1985. Number 13 002 was scrapped in 1982, and from 1985 to 1986, the 1311 and 1303 were scrapped. It's a pity and a particularly crying shame that none of these engines survived preservation. But imagine if the National Railway Museum of Green Bay, Wisconsin, and other train museums in the UK would buy them. It'll be nice.
yeah, exactly. It would be also nice too, honestly, for me, exactly. But
And also, let's talk about the infection of the
oh,
Class
that's true.
08 too. The Class 08 locomotives formed the basis for the character Devious Diesel and the railway, and Thomas and Friends, and the Tinkerton and Friends, the railway series, and Thomas and Friends railway series, and also and the Class 08 also provided the basis for several other characters in the television series. Most notably Ari and Bert, Spotter and Dodge, aka Splodge, that's what Diesel then calls them, and Thomas and the Magic Round, Paxton, and Sydney, and Fernando, and a Brazilian diesel center, and many more international engines are based on this class.
And what about Paxton, Dennis, and
Dennis
Well,
was a
Dennis, that's a different type of diesel
Dennis
locomotive,
is
and
right there,
Norman
Alan.
and Diesel 10?
now
Like
let's talk
technology, honestly, is something that America and everyone likes. Everywhere we all rely with technology stuff. For example, like
yeah,
computers,
but
like that
also
kind of way. You know
sometimes
what I mean, right?
and the differences between our diesels and compared to British diesels, the British Railways diesels all the time uses double cab diesels, but we don't usually do that with our steam engines. Sometimes we do it with hood units, which means there would be a window on one side for the driver to look easily, but it wouldn't really make sense if you. But we don't do double cab. We do it sometimes with electric locomotives, but with a few diesels locomotives from the Central Railroad, New Jersey, and from the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western. And just imagine a double cab with an Amtrak F40PH and a
I
P.
mean, that would be good in my book, actually. I mean, that would be impressive. How would that affect other lines?
Yeah, and they would have less tractive effort.
Yeah, like kind
And
of like the
imagine
SEPTA
if they were
trains,
built with less tractive effort,
that,
more
yeah.
tractive effort properly, and if it was
Exactly,
actually
yeah.
like Britain,
Exactly.
it would
Mhm.
be awesome.
I mean, that was about what
Now
about
let's
these other
talk
liners
about
too? Like, how would that, like them on? They're gonna be unreliable or something? Like,
some of them won't, and I think some of them would be successful if they actually follow the directions. That's why.
exactly.
And also, let's talk about the infamous Class 17, which is based off of
Class
Derek and
17.
Thomas and Friends. You know information
Exactly.
about them?
I got them. Yes, sir. I have them.
You should
Hang on, let
talk
me
about
just
them.
hold on. Let me just hold on. I actually have it. Just give me a second. I need to find my computer. Ah, here it is. Got it. All right, got it. Okay, of course.
The
Okay,
British
so
Railways Class 17, also known as the Clayton Type 1, was a class of 117 Bobo Paxman diesel electric locomotives built between 1962 to 1965 by the Clayton Equipment Company and their subcontractor, Barry Peacock Company, on behalf of British Railways.
yes, and look at the total produced. They made 117 of these diesels back then. Look,
Yeah, and their
117.
tractive effort is like 18,000 pounds. Boy,
Will we
one of the
also wait? Can we
weakest
also be
British
talking
diesels.
about Boco 2, the diesel engine, the Type
We can talk
2?
about the Class 28s after the Class 17s.
Okay. All right. So,
So during the
anyway,
1950s and
yes,
1960s, BR procured a wide range of Type 1 diesel locomotives, many of them under the pilot scheme. However, several officials felt that the single capped arrangement used by the majority of the Type 1 presented the drivers with visibility difficulties in the less convenient direction. BR therefore approached several manufacturers to seek a new locomotive that had a century cab and low bonnets to maximize visibility. And Clayton were selected to produce their proposed locomotives, the Class 17s. Slow engine covered required the use of a pair of Paxman 6ZHXL six-cylinder horizontal engines, which had been intended for powering rail cars. It was a somewhat unorthodox arrangement for the era. And production of the Class 17 was undertaken between 1962 and 1965, mentioned earlier. Like with the locomotives being assigned to the north of Britain and the Scottish region, early on it was determined that the locomotive was not suited to heavy freight trains, and it quickly acquired a reputation for unreliability, largely due to the engines, which
yes, of course. And the
continued
engines used to have a lot of
to
problems back in the
deliver
60s,
poor
according to here.
performance. Even
Yes.
after extensive modifications, the Class 17s proved to be one of the least successful, most failure of the Type 1s. With withdrawals to yeah, the design. You should talk about the design.
Yes, exactly. And most of them were actually so good. Like they were built between the year 1962 to 65, so they only had 3 years of career. Honestly, 3 years in the British Railway until they were dismissed for some unknown reason. And most of them were actually so good that even people didn't know about these engines. To be honest, you know, and they're designed for everything. The Class 17
Just
locomotives
like
were incrusted. They were featured as single tank engines actually because back then diesels used to have like how many diesels like how many diesel electric modifications did they have like at least like a few or so, and some of them were only used for one reason. And around the problems, they did have problems, however. Their design was arguably the least successful diesel locomotive ever employed on British railways, even more so than ill-fated Metro Vic Kobo. The twin Paxman engines were unreliable, however, being prone to chrome shaft and cylinder head problems amongst others. Overall, the ability was actually around 60%, even
yeah, and also
engine.
trains need to come to the rescue, just like how Boko came to the rescue with Derek, because Derek kept
Yeah,
having one of these problems, and
yeah,
their
teething
cabs were in the
problems.
middle.
Yeah, teething problem means their fuel, right? Their fuel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their fuel. Okay. It's because I didn't know what teething troubles actually at the time.
It's been a while, mommy.
So I guess I understand why they call it teething troubles
I'll sit
actually.
down.
Yeah. But most of these engines, they were so built back then, and some of them even still travel actually, according to here. They say that now that like between November of 2018, they still travel here actually, and they were also produced in Bachmann too, the model train guy that makes them. According to here, it says here. Any
Yeah,
questions,
and let's talk
comments?
about the withdrawn. So they
Yes.
were retired, withdrawn, scrapped, and cut up, and gone between 1968 to 1971, with
So they
one,
were
the
mainly
last final
scrapped
one
then.
being with 1975. One was actually preserved.
Okay.
Because after number D8568, and after withdrawal in 1971, D8568 went to sea and industrial use at Hampstead and at Ribblesdale cement and clitheroe, and was then secured for preservation. It is often based on at the China and Princess Rosebud Railway, but it is currently at the Severn Valley Railway following an extensive overhaul. And you should talk about the basis for the locomotive, Manuel,
Yeah, exactly.
of Derek.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure to talk
Anyway.
about.
Hey guys,
Yeah, anyways,
also
are we gonna talk
right
about
now,
another engine?
Alex is in another VC and
We
he's
should talk
having a
about the
fighting
class
server.
28.
I'm gonna show
Class
him
28,
them
I
the
got it.
live.
Hang on. I'm searching it up. Just give me a second.
You should talk it. It's your turn.
Yes,
Doesn't
yes,
have
because
to
I
be
want to
me,
talk about
but yeah.
that. Wait, what's it called? What's it called? What's it called? Class what?
The British Railways class 28.
28? Okay. Got it.
Hmm.
And here it is. All right. I got it. Okay. So these British rails, like, first of all, we actually have another interesting fact, actually. It was also the different of actually from Boko, from Thomas, actually. And Edward actually said that these were also Metropolitan Vickers diesel electric Type 2. And that is true. These British
Yeah,
rails
but Boko
also
was
Class
actually.
2.
Yeah,
So
and
most of
Boko was actually reliable in the Thomas universe, while its real life counterparts, which is in our world universe, are not.
Exactly. And the British
You
Rail
should talk
Class
about
28
you should talk
are
about
known
how they were built.
as, they were also known as metric Vicks, or in other words, Crossleys, or they
Or
also call it
Tobos, sometimes
Bocos. Yeah,
Bocos, because
they were built
they were
under
built.
the pilot scheme. They were built in the pilot scheme for diesel locomotives as part of the British Railways 1955 moderation plan. These Crossley line locomotives were one of the two that were built under the pilot scheme to use two-stroke, the other being the Class 23 baby electric locomotives. And according to here, it also says that they were produced 20 engines of them. Although they would be able to be out of 1959 actually, and they were built in 1958, so they only had a year career, honestly. But couldn't you just imagine if they had a more career than just 1 year, dude? Like, imagine if they had a good career, you know?
And I wish they were more successful in real life. And
Yeah.
and I wish they were more
No.
successful in real life.
Bye.
Yeah,
Okay. Bye. Oh, sorry.
and
guys,
I wish they were more successful in real life.
Yeah, they only had a year career, dude. That sucked, honestly. But
But
in
actually, they
preservation,
didn't.
did something.
Actually,
They
they
did.
didn't because their careers were only like they lasted up until December of 1967 to September of 1968. They had a
Yep,
truck
that's true.
of 50,000 pounds, top speed at 75 miles an hour. Their train brakes.
But in
The
fiction,
train brakes
however,
are
the Class
vacuum.
28 was
And
actually
also-
based for Boko, the character from the Railway series of the
Yeah,
children's
and
book by
also
Railway.
Boko, and also about the Class 28s, they have like 5 axles, aka
Yeah,
10 wheels, just like the EMD FL9 from the New Haven Railroad.
Sort of like that, sort
Metro
of.
North.
Yeah, exactly. And most of
But
them
those
actually
FL9s were
built in.
better.
Yeah,
And we
they
should
were.
talk about the engines soon.
Yeah, exactly. Any other British
With-
other comments?
With low speed Crossley 8-cylinder HST 2-stroke engines, they represented an experiment in 2-stroke versus 4-stroke engines for diesel electric traction. The engines had exhaust pulse charging and developed 1200 horsepower, 895 kW at 625 RPM. There were no valves, and inlet and exhaust were via ports in the cylinder walls. The engine was originally fitted with in the Irish A class and the Western Australian Government Railways X class. Similar
Yeah,
but
exactly.
smaller engine. The ESNT6 was used in the D3/3 shunters, and 08 with Crossley engine rather than English Electric. And almost from the beginning, the Metrovix Crossley engines were problematic. They suffered frequent failures, and by 1961, the entire class was handled back to manufacture for remedial work on the engines and to cure problems with cab windows falling without running. The cab windows were modified such that instead of wrapping around to the side, The outer front windows were replaced by a flat piece of glass facing the front only. These engines were so noisy and prone to unacceptable levels of smoky exhaust frames. It's like the same thing happened with the Amtrak HHP8 with the wheel all slipping and how the engines in there sometimes explode in the inside instead of the outside, just like a full-fledged boiler explosion. But just an inside, just like a psh, not like a gigantic full-fledged explosion. Oh, but
Yeah,
almost like
exactly.
that. Wow.
Yeah. Any other British trains engines you want to talk about more, or are these the last ones, or is there more? Malaysia? Hello? Alan?
I'm still here. Cause also right here, say hi to Alex and Carmen Anxiety right here in the Discord VC.
Oh, hey, I'll try joining you guys later after I finish the live stream with Malaysia, okay? Hey, what's
And
up?
also we also have this other guy here who was my friend here.
All right, thank you.
I wish
Thank you.
Diego was here too.
Me too, honestly. Anyway, Alicia, is there other more
We
British
should talk
railway
about the
trains?
Class 43 HSTs. The Class 43 HST high-speed trains. Not the
How many are we
warships,
gonna
but
do
the
them actually?
HSTs.
How many locomotives are we gonna do, dude? How many of them?
We should do the Class 43 HSTs. Like the
Okay.
intercity 125 high-speed train.
Can we also talk about another British train that I also found? I also found another one called the Class 222, the newer ones, you know?
Wait,
Yeah, you should talk
wait,
about
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Class 2.
Wait, oh, I know these engines. Wait, I know these engines actually. I know these engines. I've seen them before.
The Class 43 HST intercity high-speed trains.
Yep, exactly. I know them. They were actually high-speed trains back then. Actually, I heard they were back then like diesel electric, and they were also working from the Great Western Railway actually back then. But now
Yeah,
they
you
returned
should
it.
talk about them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's talk about that. All right. Okay, so these British rail class were actually high-speed passenger trains that British had back then. It used to work as the Great Western Railway when it had an accident in 1954, it says. Wait,
No, the Class 43 HSTs was actually the top classification used for the intercity 125 high-speed train, formerly Class 253 and
Oh, I think I heard
254.
it said it had an accident, actually. It says here it had an accident at one time.
And they were
It says
built
here-
by British Rail Engineering Limited from 1975 to 1982 and in
Yeah.
service in UK since
I knew it.
1976.
Yeah, that's the accident. That's the accident I was talking to you about. Yes, I knew it. I found the accident right here in the accident list. In the accidents before, like these engines were built in as faster. They were built to serve a lot of Western. They were also in the Great Western Railway too, or GWR for short, you know? The Great Western Railway, just like Doug from Thomas, that kind of way, you know?
Yeah,
used to travel in London,
but the
you know?
Class 43 HSTs, they were also the basis for Pip and Emma from the Railway series.
And some of them were actually, and these were some of the operator too. The Scott Rail was also was actually a number 54 in its units, you know, and this was also like another version of the Class 43. Actually, it says here most of the engines were either preserved or scrapped at the scene, or scrapped some of them.
Yeah,
But during
and
the
also
1987, some of them were having. Well, hold on. During 1987, IST power cars were converted for using as driving van trailers, or DVTS for short, with Class 91 locomotives during the trials on the East Coast Main Line. And the cars were fitted with buffers and time division multiplex equipment that allowed them to directly control
and
the Class
they
91.
and they had the prototype, power car number 41001.
And they had a good career.
They
dude.
were
These
two
engines
power
had a
cars
good
built in
career.
1972 by British Engineering Limited's crew works to operate prototype high-speed train HST with Mark
And some
II
of those
carriages.
engines will actually end up having accidents, however. And here's an accident list right here. Let me just find it. Okay.
And one
there's a
is
lot of accidents that happen. For example, the Southall rail crash that happened in September 1997, when was a locomotive 43173 leading a Swansea to London Paddington service, which failed to stop at a red signal, which resulted in a high-speed collision with the freight train. According to here, it
man.
estimated that It estimates that about 43 people were killed and that so many and 100 others were injured, it says.
What?
And it says it
You got to
here.
be kidding.
I searched the accident. It said 43 people were killed. It said 43 people were killed. And also, there was
Oh,
also the famous Lackbroke Groove Rail crash, actually, that happened in October
on
of 5th
October
of
5th, 1999.
Yep.
That's the
Because the
same year
British
when
Rail
Family
Class
Guy came out.
165 passed the signal set out of danger while leaving Paddington on the Thames train service. It resulted in a collision with the 4311, forming a London bound STB service, actually. And also,
And
it also got a collision with another derailment, also.
well,
According to
it's
here,
the Ufton. It's like the youth Ufton, never Ufton or Ufton or whatever you want to pronounce it. Never rail crash on November 6th of 2004. That's the
yep, it
same
says
year when
that
I
too.
was born, and that was like a month after I was
Yeah.
born. Number 430, number 43019, leading a London to Plymouth service, collided with a car or the Upton net or vet level crossing. It's like people
Yep.
don't know really how to drive and they don't know how they're licensed.
No, I also
They're-
heard there was also another accident that also happened when it collided with the tanker truck. I remember I saw the news. I saw it. It said it collided with the tanker truck, one of these engines. I don't know if it's true or not. No, it says it here. It says that it collided with the tanker truck and it killed like at least 6 people, but the engineer, because I saw this in the TV show World's Most Amazing Videos, it says that everyone survived. That does not look like that someone survived that kind of explosion. There's no way no one can survive that, you know? It did result
I
that the
think that
engineer.
kind of an accident was like a lie.
I don't know if it was a lie
It
or
was like
not.
a lie.
I don't know. They call it the Ladbroke accident, though, like the Ladbroke Grove Rail crash. I mean, I
Could
heard
it
of
be-
that actually. It was
Could it
derailed,
be a
right?
lie?
Crash,
Could it be a lie? Could it be a lie? Truth?
I don't
Or
know,
Could it
I
be
don't
like,
know.
like, I mean, could it be a truth or false or a lie or even a coincidence?
I don't know. I don't know if this was true or not, but I
And
found
I
it from
also
World's Most
found-
Amazing Videos. They posted that and they said that this was an accident between a British rail train.
And
It said that.
also, I just found more accidents like
Like,
the Stonehaven derailment on August 12th, 2012. This is the same month when the Owl House season 1 ended. Number 43140, leading an Albella Leo ScotRail service, struck a landslide near Stonehaven onto the Dundee Aberdeen line, derailing the train and killing 3.
And that's honestly, but no, the worst accident was actually the Ladbroke accident. However, like it was the worst accident in that time. Actually, I mean, I understand why.
Oh.
Failed badly, dude. It derailed and it resulted in. It literally killed so many people.
Tragic.
I know.
Yeah.
And it said because according to here, it says that the investigator said that the engineer of the passenger train ignored a red signal. And the reason he ignored it was actually because he was colorblind.
It's just like the Maryland Chase collision where the engine on the Conrail GP30 driving the Conrail GP38, Mr. Redson, while he was smoking marijuana, which you should not do.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not different though. It's not different. I mean, it is result of engineer failure. So that's true about those two, you know.
And that two AM7s number 900 and 903 were completely destroyed, and all of them were scrapped. And also, let's talk about the 40th anniversary. And on on Friday, May 2nd, 2016, same day, the same exact day when the Nickelodeon May 2nd, 2016 Nickelodeon anime TV show The Loud House came out.
Stage. Can you add him in?
Yeah, actually. I don't know if this was true. Hey, what's up?
No,
let me continue.
Let me continue.
Yeah, okay.
Not Melly Milifoni. I hate that show. No. Well, you and Alan hate that show, but me and
What's
Manuel
going on?
But Noel, Goblin X
What's up?
Look at Goblin X he did to me. Look.
What did he do?
Look.
Oh no!
No.
Get rid of it
Another
now.
betrayal. No. I hate it. No. I think Cartoon Lit 990 might be betrayed.
I said blurry.
That's in the
Bro,
90s hated My Little Pony.
No, but
now.
like, no, but it is true what this thing said. Here that it actually was a class 40 of the tank control.
Guys, let me
Yeah,
talk
but
about the 40th anniversary of the Class 43 HST intercity high-speed trains.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
on Friday, May 2nd, 2016, the same exact day.
Oh hell no! They're
2016
playing Bluey now.
Whoa,
Alex,
Alex.
No.
Language,
Let me
what's
talk.
language, dude?
Oh my god! Oh, it's
Let me talk.
versions.
Yeah, I got it.
Let me
Let him talk,
finish.
Alex. Let him talk, please.
Okay.
Just stop. I don't want this to be embarrassing, and I just don't want to hear any copyright audios. Because if you're gonna play it, then you have to mute it, Mike. Mike, do we make ourselves clear?
Yes.
And well,
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
yeah. And if Alex plays something like a My Little Pony audio that contains copyright,
Yeah, please,
then
please
you want
do
at
that.
least have to
Okay?
mute this mic, because we don't want to hear this newfangled nonsense, Smuggles
Nonsense,
Edward.
Yep, newfangled
Discussion.
nonsense.
And of discussion, just like Sasha from Amphibia.
Yep, end of discussion.
If you don't listen to them, then
Yeah,
like
let's just
Edward
let's
and
move on,
Sasha
please,
would go
please.
psycho
Let's move on,
because of
okay?
this.
Let's talk about the other engines.
Now,
You know,
talk about the anniversary, 40th anniversary. So
Yep.
on Friday, May 2nd, 2016, which is also the same exact day where the Friday, May 2nd, 2016 Nickelodeon anime TV show The Loud House came out, an open day was held at Bristol St. Philip Marshall DuPont with a lineup of Class 43s from each operator, except Cross Country, to celebrate the HST's 14th anniversary. Several locomotives and passenger trains also appeared, such as 150, 8247, and 116, 62, 14, both in their new GWR liveries. 158, 798, and its Springboard Opportunity Group livery and prototype Class 41 HST. At the event, power car number 43002, number 253-253-001 as a diesel multiple unit was unveiled in originally Intercity 125 livery and named Sir Kenneth Grant of the Class 43's as body shell designer. And on October 2nd, 2016, power car number 43185 was unveiled in Intercity Swallow livery. And both were operated by the Great Western and First Great Western, and 43002 is now preserved.
I see.
And here's the replacement. And the HST fleet is now in its 5th decade, and replacements for it are currently being introduced. This project, the Intercity Express program, is being spearheaded by the Department for Transport. A consortium headed by Hitachi has designed and built for the new units. Initially named Super Express Train, various formations are being built, both electric and bi-mode, electrical diesel versions in 5 or 9 coach lengths. The first batches have replaced HSTs on the Great Western Mainline and the East Coast Main Line. And initially, it was also announced that in March of 2015, the HSTs would instead be replaced with the Class 802s, a more powerful derivable bi-mode of the Class 800s. But
I see.
those were terrible, and the Class 800s were also terrible too. And also, the Great West Central Railway leased 5 more Class 180 units cascade from GW over to replace its HST trains and increase its overall fleet size. This turned and allowed the HSTs to be cascaded to East Midlands trains. The East Midlands train sets were passed to the new East Midlands Railway franchise, which announced it would replace them with a combination of Class 180 and Class 222 units, enabling owing to the electrification of the MMW as far north as Corby, to be replaced ultimately by the Class 810 bi-mode units.
Exactly.
And yeah, but those were terrible.
Yeah, some of them were terrible.
And
Some
let's
of them
talk.
were
And now we come to the preservation. Your turn for the preservation
Which one?
of the Class 43s.
Class 43. Okay.
And
okay.
13 Class 43 power cars have currently been saved for preservation.
Hang on. Then, okay. Some of the what again?
13 of the Class 43 power cars have been
Oh, the
currently
13, the
saved for
coaches. Okay.
preservation. Your turn.
All right. Okay. So the class 13s were actually right there, as he said. That's what he said. Some
Class
of these
43s. Class
43s.
43s.
Oh,
13 of the
that's-
Class 43 power cars. Their power cars have currently been saved for preservation.
Oh yeah, some of them were actually saved preservation of the British Rail, according to here. It says here, and some of them were still being used. Actually, the 193 of the 197.
Well, 9 of them only had been scrapped. 127 of them are still in service. 40
Yeah, some of them were
restored
still
and
in
12
service.
been
Most of them were
preserved.
written off by Fatal. In the year 1997 to 1999 and to and of course 2020.
And attractive effort, and they had attractive effort at 17,980 pounds, and it continues at 10,340 pounds. The attractive effort could have been higher, and the top speed of 125 miles an hour, and the record is 148 miles an hour.
Yep,
Hour.
that's
And
their
they have
speed.
2,250 horsepower, hour 235 long tons force.
And I know some people might say, like, where does these passenger trains come from? Well, they usually come from a lot of stations in London, including the King's Cross, actually, and Paddington, of course, as you hear in the Railway series books from Gordon Goes Fergane, Fergane or what? I don't know. I don't know what's the word. I have no idea. It was from the Railway series books. And it was like King's Cross was actually the main line of the passenger trains back then. In British time, like they had a lot of good careers. But to conclude this of the Class 40s, these Class 40s were one of the best high-speed trains, even more better
Along
than
with the Class 91s.
the Class 91s. Yep, they were even more valuable than the Class 91s. Yep. And they also said the British Rail Class 43 is actually more faster than a high-speed bullet train in Japan. I don't think so. That's not true.
But the Japanese ones were like 130 miles an hour. But the 148 miles an hour one, HST was much faster than the older 1960s Kansai bullet train in Japan.
Hey
But
guys,
nowadays,
Well, that's
Japanese
true.
trains are
Well, that's
200
true.
miles an hour.
Well, that
And the
is true.
French
That's a point
French
there.
TGVs are at 300 miles an hour. And German's ICE trains at 220. And tragically for the Acela at 150. But we're getting a high-speed train in California that can reach up to 220
it's
miles
the
an hour.
new Caltrain, right?
Yes.
Also, and then today I did the 1985 edit with the 7 train that Captain Hayder told me to do. Because if you commented to do anything that was in 1985, like if Elijah comments the Freedom Train, I would do that, right?
Yeah, right.
I can't cut an exciting in 4K.
And
Okay.
Hey,
Anyway, let's just move on. Okay.
let's talk about the Class
Hey, Alex.
91. Let's talk
I
about
Yeah.
did
the
the
Class
7 train edit because you like the
Let's
7
talk
train,
about the
right?
Class
Yes.
91s.
I'm looking now. X.
Manuel, let's talk about the Class
Right,
91s, right?
Class 91.
Yeah.
In the
Is this
it's
the last one or is there
turn-
more?
You've known them?
been a long time to load.
I know them a little bit. Yeah, I learned. I
So the
know.
Class 91 is a high-speed electric locomotive with produces power of 4,048 to 100,
They
300
were also
kW,
part of the intercity, right? They were also part of the
6,480
Oh,
and 6,480 horsepower, and it was ordered as a component of the East Coast Main Line modernization and electrification programming of the late 1980s.
Yep. And most of them were actually so popular back then, actually. It says it could even go to the East Coast Main Line in 1989, it says.
Yeah, and they were built between 1988 to 1991. 30
And they
one
were
of
also
them.
advanced passenger trains, or APT for short. And most of them were actually built back then, and they're produced. However, there's no unknown number. There's actually an unknown number of how many they built. I would say they probably built at least 1 or 2. I would say, and most of them actually,
Yeah,
and right
and they were
here, they're
introduced-
actually in model about it. National Railway Museum.
Yeah, and during 1989, the Class 2 Intercity 225 was officially introduced to revenue service. That same year, the ECMW had been energized to York. 2 years later, electrification reached Edinburgh, allowing electric services to begin on July 8th of 1981, 8 weeks later than scheduled. The
Yep.
ECMW ML electrification programming was completed at a cost of $344.4 million at 1983 prices, a minor overrun against its authorized expenditure of $331.9 million. 40% of the total cost was on the new traction and rolling stock, and 60% for the electrification of the main line.
Yep. Yeah, and also talking about these type of engines, most of them were actually built like British Railway wanted to try making passenger line, because they wanted to expand because people going out and so
And yeah,
they want to do those kind of things.
let's talk about the speed record. A Class 91, number 91010, now 91, now 91110, holds the British locomotive speed record at 161.7 miles per hour, aka 260.2 kilometers per hour, set on September 17th of 1989, just south
Oh
of
my!
Little Dytham on a test run down Stoke Bank with the
That was the
DVT
year
leader.
born, actually, 1989.
That's the year when who?
My mom was born in 1989, January of
Really?
1989. Yeah,
She gave
she's
a
so
birth.
old.
Wait, did your mom gave birth to you like when she was
In
17?
2006, she gave birth to me. She was born in 1989, and she
How
had a kid
about
in 2006.
how about to your older sister?
2001, my sister, actually.
Wait, how young was I cannot believe it. She was
I
like
remember my mom. When I told my mom about that, she said that she was like at least like 30 or 40 years old. 30, I think. Yeah, 30. She told me 30.
that's not true. Your mom cannot be born in 1989.
I think it was like, yeah. I mean, no, actually, she was.
It'll be impossible to have a child because if you were to have a child in 2001, you cannot just be like 12 years old. That's too young to be a child.
Oh, really? Or maybe? Oh, wait. I think I messed up the year. Oh, yeah, I did. It turns out she was born somewhere in 1979. Actually, it says.
Yeah,
Yeah, it says
right.
1979.
Maybe
Yeah, I
she
actually
was
calculated
born
now.
into 2020. She was like 22 years old after she
Yeah, exactly.
graduated
Yeah, she
from
was.
college.
She was.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, it does make
Yeah.
sense now. I apologize. I made a mistake. I
Yeah, you
forgot.
cannot because giving a birth at a really young age as a middle schooler, you can actually get expelled, suspended, or to make
Yeah,
things worse,
yeah.
expelled for
No,
that.
but more worse in high school, dude. In high school, they don't care actually. So yeah. Yeah, you had a point there. Actually, I got confused for a second. It's because I knew
Or
she was
sometimes they
born
would send
in
you to
somewhere
a
in the 1900s, but I
juvenile
just don't know which
if you
one. Was it the
actually did
80s or
that.
was it the 90s? I don't know. The 80s or the 90s.
So
I
it
probably
was
would
the
say.
80s. The Class 91 was set on a speed record went at 161.7 miles per hour, aka 260.2 kilometers per hour. So on September 17th of 1989, just south of Little Bytham on a test run down
Yeah,
Stoke
exactly,
Bank with
exactly.
the DVT leading. Although
Yep.
Class 370s, Class 373s, and Class 374s have run faster. All are electric EMUs, which means that the Electra is officially the fastest locomotive in Britain. Another loco number 991031, now 9 in 1131, hauling 5 MK4s, was at and a DVT on a test run ran between London's King's Cross and Edinburgh Waverley in 3 hours and 29 minutes and 30 seconds on
Exactly.
September 26th of 1991. This is still the current record. The set covered route out is in an average speed of 112.5 miles an hour, 181.1 kilometers per hour, and reach the full 140 miles per hour and 225 kilometers per hour several times during the run. The Class 91 was designed to achieve a peak speed service speed of 140 miles an hour. The upper range of its high-speed capabilities facilitated a 3 hours and 29 minutes non-stop run between London and Edinburgh on September 26th of 1991. Same year when Rugrats, Doug, and Ren Stimpy came out.
I see.
However, British regulations have since required in-cab signaling on any turn running at speeds at above 125 miles per hour, just like in the Northeast Corridor in the United States, preventing such speeds from being legally attained in regular service. Thus, except on High Speed 1, which is equipped with cab signaling. British signaling does not allow any train, including the intercity 225, to exceed 125 miles an hour in regular service due to impractically correctly observing line side signals at high speed.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways,
Now we
British-
should talk about the withdrawal. The Class
Okay.
91, number 9, 11, 30, 12 was the first Class 91 to be officially scrapped. It was scrapped at Sims Metal Scrapyard in Nottingham. Yeah. And upon retirement, number 9, 11, 10 will be preserved as part of the National Collection, have been nominated by the Railway Heritage Committee.
Alan, I got some bad news.
What's the bad news? Don't mention the imposter, okay?
Not the imposter. For
Yeah,
real,
because
for
we don't
real.
want to get demonetized for that.
For
Wait,
real.
what's the other
They
bad
gotta break
news?
Peppa Pig, even though I hate Peppa Pig.
What?
Coleman Exotic gotta put Peppa Pig, even though I hate it.
Yeah, I hate Peppa Pig.
You better not put Peppa Pig.
Yeah, and if you're trying to use any...
I'm not even screen sharing, Alex.
Oh, alright.
Jeez.
Yeah, because if you actually did that with that contains copyright, then I would recommend you to turn your mic down and camera down so you won't see it. So we don't want to get a copyright strike and demonetized. Right, Manuel?
Yeah, okay, fine.
Cool.
I'm here.
Got it.
Man, I gotta charge this phone.
Yeah, and the British Railways class 91s, they were supposed to be replaced by the Class 800s, which were terrible. And eventually the Class 800s replaced themselves. And just keep the 91s running. Because the more British Railways produces terrible diesels, the longer we can keep the Class 91s running. That's a good thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the British Rail Class 91 electric locomotives, they were supposed to be replaced by the British Railways Class 800s, one of the worst trains ever, because those were terrible high-speed trains.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what is going on? I mean, they replaced themselves because of their teething troubles that they had. Like, I mean, what is going on with the high-speed train system in the UK? And also, the US is making some progresses, and Canada had failed attempts to invent the high-speed train. And just imagine if Canada having a high-speed train, they would. But they had some
I
high-speed
wouldn't
trains
imagine
like
that, honestly. I would not.
yeah,
imagine.
and the Canada had some high-speed trains like the Canadian Pacific F2A 444 Jubilees. All 4 of them have been scrapped. So imagine a full-scale replica, full-size replica of one was built. Then it will be nice. And also the UAC turbo trains, those were bad, but their tilt controls worked. But with the Bombardier LRCs, they didn't, because sometimes the tilt control wasn't actually reliable in the LRC, because sometimes the engine would tilt and the coaches wouldn't. And eventually the LRC never received much love. And we would be able to talk about those type of Via Rail Canada trains in a not too distant future. And the LRC is probably my all-time least favorite Via Rail locomotive due to its tilt and capability problems and teething troubles, right, Manuel?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and and they look like a fatter version of the Class 43 warships, but with a knuckle coupler.
Exactly.
Making them like they lose weight with their speed, making them speed weaker. While the Class 43s, they would make them fitter making them go faster at 125 to 140 miles an hour. That's a good
Exactly.
joke, Manuel.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
Now let's talk about the British Rail Class 228 Voyager.
Exactly.
Now it's your turn to search up the information. And after
Oh.
we talk about the 228, we're going to talk about the British Railways Class 44, which is for diesel 199.
Exactly. Hang on. What was it called? The engines
The
again?
British Rail Class 220. Saying it
220.
again.
Okay.
The British Rail Class 220.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
Your
Is
turn.
this the last one, or is there more?
Two more.
Oh, two more? Okay, fine. Okay, so what are the British Rail Class 220s? Okay, the British Rail Class 220, or the Voyager, they call it, is a class diesel electric high-speed multiple unit passenger trains that were built in Belgium and by Bamberg Transportation in 2000 and 2001. And of course, they were introduced in 2001 to replace the 20-year-old Intercity 125. And almost 40 years ago, it was also a Class 40 hauled cross-country route. They were
And we can
intentionally
also talk
operated by
about the Class
Virgin Cross
47s.
Country, and since 2007 have been operated by Cross Country too.
Feature.
It says here. You call it the British Rail Class 220, right?
The British Railways Class 220. And
Yeah.
they were also designed by this company called Bombardier Transportation, which is a Canadian and German rolling stock and rail transport manufacturer headquartered in Berlin, Germany. I know, I'm sick of that company because this company hasn't gone defunct since then because a lot of locomotives that they made were questionable because they're like the grandmasters of teething troubles. I know that they made the Amtrak Acela Express. I think they were successful because I think the Acela had a few annoying flaws. Well, its dual cab electric locomotive, the HHP8, had even worse flaws, along with the Bombardier LRC in the Class 220. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and
And-
also the ALP 45 and ALP 46, and some of the rolling stock were pretty good. But we're not focusing on them. Let's focus on the Class 220 Voyagers. So the class of them, they were manufactured from 2000 to 2011. 34 sets have been produced in the formation of 4 cars per set. Yeah. Your turn. You should
All
talk
right.
about the technical details.
Okay. All right. Technical details. Okay. So all the coaches are equipped with a Cummins QSK19 diesel engine of 750 HP or 560 kilometers or kW at 1,800 RPM. These power generator, which supplies current to motors driving 2 axles per coach, with 1 axle being Bosch powered. Actually, Voyagers have both air and rheostic brakes. Actually, they are fitted with the line couplers like the Class 22, operated by East Midlands Railway, and Class 390 Line electric trains used by Avity West Coast, meaning they were even being coupled in rescue/recovery mode, air brake only, in an event of a failure. 220s and 221s can also be easily assisted by declining fitted Class 57s, or Thunderbirds to be exact, in the event of a failure. By using the adapter couplings, a failed 220 or 221 can also be assisted by any air braked locomotives such as the Class 37, Class 47,
Which were actually
or
good. The
Class
Class 37s were actually good. We should
Yes,
talk,
which they were
and
good.
also we should talk about the Class 37s in a future episode about the part 2 of the British Rail diesels. And and in part 2 we're going to talk about the Class 35 Hamix, the Class
Okay, that sounds
55
good.
Delkis, and the prototype Deltic that looks like an E or an F unit, but a dual cabbed one. And the Class 55 and 37s, and the Class 47s. And we'll also mention about the Class 47s about that they once hit a cow.
Oh, Oh no, let's not talk about that, please. That's
No,
really
let's
graphic.
not talk about that one.
Yeah, that's graphic. That's graphic. Okay, what you guys heard,
Scrap that
do
at the
not,
end.
you don't want to know. Okay, it's very sad. Please, please, do not watch it. Okay, please don't. Let's not talk about that. Okay.
Let's not talk about it. Just like the real fun enthusiast YouTuber History in the Dark. Where
Yeah,
He-
I don't like talking about something that's really sad.
yeah, let's
Yeah,
talk
exactly.
about the
Anyway,
220s.
let's talk about the accidents, however.
Let's talk about the accidents of the 220s.
Okay, so there were a lot. There were actually a number of exhausted fires on the Voyager class during 2005 and 2006 due to an incorrect fitting of the equipment during overhauls. Fires occurred at Starcross, class 221 to be exact, Newcastle, and on January 2006. at
January
Foreign
19th, 2006.
Yep,
That was like
On
2
May
months before you were
26th,
born.
2000. The accidents and incidents. You told me that. We were in
The accident, yes, see.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. On May 26, 2006, a passenger was. Oh my God. I have no. There's another word. I don't know if I'm going to say it or not, but should I say it or should I just try saying was hurt? How about I saying it was hurt? You know?
Yes,
A
it was
passenger
intern.
was hurt. A passenger was hurt aboard 220-005 as it approached Axon Home.
The passenger
this?
was actually murdered, tragically.
Well, yeah, he was actually killed instantly, which is very graphic, and we don't want to talk about that. You know, we're just trying to make it more family friendly. You know, so instead
Just like
of saying
History in
kill,
the
let's just say
Dark.
hurt.
Say,
Let's just
just
say
like
hurt.
in History in the Dark, he doesn't put any curse words in one of his documentary videos.
Exactly. We just put hurt, you know, like hurt or perished. How about that? No, perished is actually a good word. Perished. Yes. A passenger was perished aboard 220-005 as it approached Axon Homeland, with listed working the Glasgow to Paddington service, however. And on May 14, 2008, 220-012, forming a service to debris, had a roof fire at Brownbury. This fire was caused by a bird getting caught under one of the hot brake resistors on the roof of the train. Damaging to the train was not serious and was repaired and returned to service. There are no fatalities in this one, but the fire did quickly spread, but luckily the engineer noticed it, and of course he evacuated most of the passengers, which they were lucky to escape. Just like the Senta train incident with the fire, actually. Just like the Senta fire train. Have you heard of that? The Sped train incident that caught on fire and said that someone died, but it's not true. It's turned out everyone actually made it out alive. So, yeah. And these coaches are actually really comfortable for trains. It's just like
It's
the
like
MCAS
how the
Surfliners,
coaches
you know?
weren't no, that's not true. The coaches weren't actually comfortable. There wasn't any room to sit, and it was and there was a hard time of people fitting their baggage into their cars.
And but I mean, right here they say they
Hopping
have a first
Buster Bunny
class, so
says
that's
hi.
good. They had a first class. They have first class, so that's cool.
Now
Hey,
let's talk.
Elijah, look, it's hopping Buster Bunny. Hey,
Now
Buster.
let's talk about the
Hey, what's
class
up?
44.
Hey, Buster Bunny!
Anyway,
talk
I'll
about
talk about the
the
coaches
rail
if you want me
cut.
to. I'll talk about the passengers and everything. Is that fine? I'll talk about it. Okay,
You'll
so the
talk
Class 220s operated in 4 coach sets. These trains, unlike the older trains that were replaced, featured electronic information displays on the exterior walls showing the train number, the departure time, the coach, train's destination, and the next station. This was also featured of the Class 221 and the 222, actually. The Class 39 trains also have an electronic information displays, but in the doors. There are also air conditioners throughout with powered doors. The coaches were fitted with power sockets for laptop computers and mobile phone charging. There was also toilet facilities for disabled people and storage facilities for bikers too. In total, there was actually 26 seats in 2+1 formation in first class and 174 seats in 2+2 formation in standard class. Not bad, honestly. Not gonna lie. They did have some like bad coaches, but like at least some of them were comfortable and something that was useful, you know, even though it was bad. And
Yeah,
most of
including
these
the class
actually okay,
607XX. The Coach D had 66 seats, standard class with large luggage area and reservable space for 3 bikes. Tragically, with no toilet, because if someone would have who's sitting inside the coach wants to use the bathroom, like go number 1 and 2, then they will have. Then they're extremely unlucky to not finding a toilet. I mean, they should have installed the
Oh,
toilet
that's
in
gonna
case if
be
someone
something
really
that's
wanted
gonna
to go
have an
back.
accident. Oh no,
That was a stupid idea for the
yeah. I
for the
mean, like,
Coach
dude,
D.
everywhere has to have
607.
bathrooms, dude. Even transportations, transportation should have bathrooms for passengers, to make it more comfortable. The food, the comfortable, dude. Come on, are you serious?
And you need a dining car too,
Yeah,
and
in case you're
sometimes a
hungry.
sleeping baggage.
Yeah,
And
a
if it's
sleep.
like
Yes, of
a
course.
sleep,
If you're
if
gonna
it's
spend
like
on a
a
train, you
night
need to have a
train,
sleeping
then you would
bag.
actually have a sleeping car.
At least the
then you would
Sunset
actually have a
Limited
sleeping
had
car.
had good sleeping cars. Actually, the Amtrak's honestly were the best in America. Honestly,
I
They had
would
a lot
love
of
to
comfort
ride an
features.
Amtrak one of these days. I wouldn't
I actually
mind
did
taking an
ride an
Amtrak
Amtrak
from
when I
New
was a
York to
Me
kid. Actually,
California in
too. I
2024.
never rode the
Maybe I
Amtrak
should take
train
an
I
before.
did.
Amtrak from New York to California in 2024
Me-
and then see my half brother Jadon and his wife Mariah and their new kid that they recently gave birth to, like
But
in
I
July
did.
of
I did actually.
2022
I
this
did ride
year.
an Amtrak train actually
We'll
one
also
time when I was back in
and
California.
Have
also
they
we'll see
visited
and
Stamford,
after we
Connecticut
see
before,
and
Elijah?
after we ride in an Amtrak, then I would see my half brother along with his wife and their new baby mentioned earlier, and we'll also see Santa Fe 3751
I
in
actually traveled.
operation, and
I actually went on
hopefully
an
more
Amtrak
train
actually one
places,
time.
including
Who
Santa Monica
remembers the
Beach.
song Santa Fe All the Way? I love that song.
Oh,
And if you
oh yeah, I
actually
love that song
and
too. Anyway, but I also did ride an Amtrak train
Train Fan
actually one time.
4636 is
I
here.
did. I did. I drove an Amtrak. I mean, I rode an Amtrak train. I did.
I
It was in
love
Phoenix.
Did it?
It
masturbation.
was in Phoenix, Arizona.
Hey,
Actually.
oh my God, Train Fan! I saw Train Fan 4636 showed up and said the M word.
Oh no. But
Oh
in my opinion,
no.
Train Fan
like
4636, aka Max. Why would he say that for? Oh, he should have saw the rules here. But he still likes South Park though, right?
yeah, yeah. But
We
but
want to
honestly,
be like
I
a
did ride an
friendly
Amtrak
family
train
guy, but
actually,
let's
guys.
talk
I
about
did ride an Amtrak train. I did.
let's
Yeah,
talk
I
but
about
rode.
then
how we rode on Amtrak and how we're gonna ride on Amtrak's. Like
I
I
rode an
rode
Amtrak
on
when
an
I was a
Amtrak
kid.
for a
It
long
was back in
time.
2006. I was back in 2006. I went to Phoenix, Arizona because I was actually going out of state at the time because I was going to California for one of my relatives' wedding in California in San Diego. Actually, I went there.
I also
We
went
took an
to a
Amtrak
wedding
train there
to
too.
my relative's wedding and like in Orange, California, with my half brother Jadon, where she got married to his wife Mariah in June
Yeah.
of 2019. Same year when or month when Amphibia came out.
Yeah, exactly. And like in that
Hey,
year,
Yeah, and
2006,
also I
Elijah.
I
want
was
to
actually riding
see.
an Amtrak train. Actually, I don't know what was the diesel or anything, but I just rode an
But
Amtrak train.
instead
It
of
was
riding the
comfortable
train,
there.
I
I
rode
think
on a
it was a
United Airlines
P-42
plane.
DC.
Oh, I never ride planes, to be honest. I'm scared of planes. I'm scared of flying.
That's your
I mean,
opinion. Well,
flying is good and all, but I prefer going on a train. Honestly, I prefer going on a train than anywhere else. I'd rather go on a
Yep.
train and everything.
and because of the 9/11 incident, you wouldn't be able to take a plane.
Yeah, exactly because of that and everything. I mean, yeah, I understand why. Because maybe relatives that lost their families in the plane accident, then yeah.
Yeah, I think in your opinion, you should avoid that and become a survivor and smart.
Yeah, I rather
Yeah.
no. I honestly
Ever
prefer
since
like
of
go
what I said
go
about
somewhere
the
else. I rather be on a train. Honestly, I rather be on
Yeah,
a train.
and
than on-
Manuel,
same.
and imagine if
Sometimes,
we could
yeah,
met in
sometimes
California in
I ride the
2024,
train.
like at the Los Angeles train station on the same day. If I take an Amtrak from New York to Los Angeles, then and you would do the same, and I would most likely to meet you there and with Jadon. We'll go on the rail
if it
fanning
ever happens,
adventure,
then yeah, we would.
and we
promise
would do
that
a
I
rail
will.
fanning adventure, like
Oh, rail fanning
from
adventure?
San
Oh,
Diego
wow.
to Sacramento.
True.
Yeah,
And also-
even
And also, we'll
D'Angelo's
go to Santa
territory,
Monica
right?
Beach and see one of the famous voice actors and cartoon creators that create the
Exactly.
Owl House, Loud House, and Amphibia, and Gravity Falls.
And
Don't
if
Teenage
forget
Robots.
My Love is Teenage
I
Robots.
go to Burbank,
Yeah, I know
California
you're
by
gonna say
Metrolink, I
okay.
would see
Okay. Anyway,
one
so
of those
Hey,
anyway,
trains.
let's think
Beatles
about
fan.
talking about the other trains
Hi,
as well.
it's
Okay,
Sylvia
Beatles.
Natasha. Hi,
I know
Natasha.
you're gonna say that. Okay. Anyway, so
Now let's talk about the 44. Now,
the
and
44s.
also,
I have it.
now
I
let's
have
talk
it
about
ready.
the
I have it
44s
ready.
that look diesel 199.
Hang on.
You should talk
44s?
about diesel 199's the class 44s.
44s. Okay. All right. Got it. Let me just find it. The rail class 44.
The British Rail class 44.
Oh, those diesel engines. Okay, I'll talk about it. Okay.
They're
The British
basis
Rail
for
Class
diesel
44, or they call it, it's also nicknamed, they also call it the Slusser Type 4 diesel locomotives. They were built by British Railways Debris Works between the year 1959 and 1996. 1960. Intended for express passenger services, they were originally numbered as D1 to D10 and named after British mountains, actually, according to here. And along with the similar Class 45, 46 locomotives, they became the Peaks, actually. In part inspired by Elmas prototypes 100,000 and 1001, and by Southern Railway 1201 and 1000, 100 and 203, the Class 44 diesels were some of the first big diesels commissioned by the British Rail Administration project, and they were also rescues to the Class 45 and the Class 46 locomotives that are similar design. So basically, this train was actually really good. They said it was one of the most freight train. It used to take freight trains, passengers, that kind of way. It's like a mixed traffic engine. Just like how Thomas pull coaches, pull freight cars, that kind of way.
You should talk about their teething troubles.
Oh, their teething troubles. Okay, so the class suffered a considerable amount of early teething troubles during the early 1960s.
Guys, you want to say hi to Cutman Anxiety?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Cutman Anxiety. They want to say hi to you on the live stream. Say hi to us. Say hi to him.
Hey,
Hi, Cartman Anxiety.
Hey, what's up?
They say hi to you.
Okay, anyway, let's move on.
Let's continue.
The bogies suffered from frame structures. The vacuum exhausters gave them trouble, as it did the auxiliary motors. The original battery were also indicated and soon became exhausted. The main problem with the exhausters was that they were mounted in the central of the engine room, and so had been to lift it through the roof like crane, taking 8 to 12 hours to change. The truss guider used for the body slides meant that there were no access through the sides of the bodywork. Considerable trouble was the water tanks for the steam heating boilers due to the fractures. Once the Class 45 units were available, the locomotives were reassigned to Tauntaun and freight duties, and the steam heating boilers were removed. So basically, they had lots of heating boilers back then, and because of that, it caused them to have teething troubles. So basically, they had lots of heating boilers back then, and because of that, it caused them to have teething. Hey, someone, I'm hearing echo, dude. Stop. Basically, they had lots of heating boilers back then. Stop playing. Vito, stop playing the thing, please.
Can you guys follow the
down,
Longo
turn it down,
kids
turn it down.
known as Hyper
Turn it
and
down.
Joanna and Gio? Can you guys follow?
Anyway, so the teething troubles were actually really bad, in especially to these designs. I mean, other British rails have difficulty with teething troubles, but it wasn't as much bad as it was for the Class 44, however.
Right. And also,
Instagram that I posted before.
let's do the let's
Look,
I'm hearing echo. Stop.
We're not
Vito,
playing
stop.
withdrawal and preservation out.
Stop playing the video. Stop. I'm hearing echo.
Train
Oh my
fan
God,
46
please
wants to
Mic,
join.
dude.
What did I do?
Just mute your mic, please. It's because
Mute
I'm
your
hearing
mic.
echo. You're
Mute your mic,
recording the
Beatles
video.
fan 100. Manuel, I think Train fan 4636 wants to join.
Okay, that's. Go ahead, madam.
I heard we're talking about British Rail.
Yes, we're talking about British.
Hey, hello, Max. Max is
Okay,
trained
before,
fan
before we begin talking about British Rail, let me
Yes,
just
Hey,
we're
say
talking about
also, train fan
British
46.
Rail has
Also, we
the
have
worst
rules here.
engines
No
out there.
swearing,
Just let
okay?
you know that.
Yeah, no swearing. Got it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Train
most
4636.
of these engines back then
really
didn't have a
agree
lot of
with you
teething
because
trouble, just like how it was from the episode Double Teething Troubles from Thomas. Most of these engines back then
just guys, Beatles fan 100. Make sure to mute your mic.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Is your mic muted? Thank you. Gracias.
I think so. Thank you.
My
All right,
mic is unmuted.
And
but
British
whatever.
and
Okay,
Train
all right.
fan 4636. So
what's going
I
on?
know
What's
that
going
British
on?
Railways has a lot of bad diesels, and they make one of the worst diesels. Do you think New Jersey Transit and Amtrak are better, Max?
Like a million times better. First of all, British Rail has the worst variety of locomotives out there. They just look horrible.
Yeah,
I hate
slightly
them. I
better.
hate
And
them.
why
And
would they do
also,
that?
let's
First
talk
of
about
all,
the
why
renumbering
why
and
were they so
withdrawal of
bad
the
as much bad
preservation.
as America though? Like how come?
They
Like they British
just
had
look
So let's talk about the
horrible. Have you
preservation.
seen them? Have you
I've
seen
seen them
their
a lot,
engines?
dude. I've seen them a lot. Okay, I've seen them in pictures. I've seen them in rail
And
shows. I've seen
Manuel,
them everywhere. I've seen them. I've seen them before.
Manuel, we
Yeah,
should
what's
talk
up?
about the Class 44s. We should talk about the Class 44s, their renumbering and withdrawal and preservation. So let me
I
start.
think we should
Exactly.
talk
The
Okay.
about
class was
Yes,
renumbered
so
4401 to 0001 to 010 with the adoption of two operations proceeding system in the early 1970s. Withdrawal of the
I
whole
think we
class
should
took
talk
place
about
between
Japanese bullet
1976 to
trains.
1980.
We're talking about British trains.
We'll talk
dude.
about it in
We
the
can talk about
future.
that another time.
You know, Max also likes South
Oh.
Park.
Yeah, I know. What's up?
I am a certified South Park guy.
Yeah, but honestly,
Yeah,
I
we
do like
got
South
another
Park, but
South
it's not
Park
watch out
fan
most of the
here.
episodes what they
Yeah.
do. Honestly, some
Also,
of them
have you
were.
followed?
let's
Have you followed Manuel?
go.
Also,
What?
Max,
Yeah,
have you followed Manuel on TikTok?
No, I do not. I don't know who he is.
Who nurses
Yeah,
are
It's
like
Yeah,
Manuel
and
actually
is
also,
the
Gypsy
Manuel,
one.
0311.
You can follow
Manuel,
his TikTok if you
Hey,
want.
I also heard
hey,
that that one class 44 was used for a nuclear train crash test explosion, but tragically it was scrapped, Manuel.
Yeah, it was
that's
technically scrapped, dude.
Pixar. No, not
Yeah,
those.
and two
I
of them
hate
are actually
you might hate
survived
Frozen.
into preservation.
Yeah,
The
I
two
heard
of
that some
them,
of them
for
did survive.
example,
Others were actually broken up.
Guys. Let's talk
two
about
of them
the
were
word.
actually preserved.
Guys,
Yeah, that's
Two
what
of
we're
them
gonna
are
talk about right
let me
now.
continue. Two of them
Hey,
are actually preserved. Number 44004, Great Gable and VR Blue Rivery. It's at the Mid Railway Airway Butterley and D 44008 Penny Kent, and it's BR Green Peak Rail, and it's privately owned. And they were the basis of Diesel 199, aka Spam Cam, and the Thomas and Friends Railway series, but never appeared in the TV series. But imagine if
Yeah,
it
it would
appeared in
not
the
actually.
TV
It would
series.
not.
And I can imagine if they actually appeared in the TV series too, the CGI.
Well, maybe if they
Why
did,
am I
maybe
here?
that would have made more
Hey,
sense.
Manuel,
I'm just confused.
So,
Yeah.
let's
Happy
talk about the
Buffalo asked
conclusion
me
of
to
what
ask
is our
you,
opinions.
did the nightmare
Starting with
enter your life?
Manuel's. What is your opinion on the British Railway diesels?
Well, the British Railway diesels were okay. I mean, they were some that actually were worse. Some of them were good. I mean, my personal favorite, if I had a favorite, it would be the Intercity British Rail. Actually, I don't know which one.
Mine
It's like
would.
the class
My favorite
200
British
and 20.
Railways engines are like the Class 42 warships. Those passenger ones and the
Switchers like the Class 08s. Those were like those.
I
These
mean,
little
yeah, they were
devils
also
were cool.
good too. Not gonna lie, they were.
What
also
is
good.
next up is you, Alan. What is your opinion on these British diesels?
Oh, in my opinion, the diesels are good.
Well, some of
Yeah,
them were
how
good,
about
Alex.
you?
Some of them were good. Some of them were
How
bad.
about you,
Probably
Alex
like
Toledo? Alex Toledo.
like a 90.
What is your opinion on the
95%
diesels?
Good.
Alex Toledo, can you unmute yourself? So we'll ask you, what is your opinion on the diesels?
Yeah, what's your opinion on the diesels? Let's see what your opinion is.
Yeah, what's your opinion, bro?
Yeah, Alex, what is your opinion? What is your opinion, Alex Toledo, official?
What does that mean exactly? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
He can't. He can't. I think he's busy right now.
Oh.
Maybe you'll answer, Max. So,
maybe
Max, what is your opinion on those British diesels?
Every single last one of them. Shit, I'm biased here. All
Whoa,
American
don't say
locomotives are
that.
superior. All British engines should be scrapped.
Okay.
No, we need to preserve them. They're an iconic piece.
I mean,
of
yeah, but like some of
No,
these
every
to let them
single
know about the
last
British
one.
history, dude. Think
Class
about it.
So please
43s.
do not act like Angus Paul or like Alfred E. Perlman, sometimes Louis W. Mank, and the two British owners that scrapped Norfolk and Western 2174, 2143, and 2189 in February of 1976. Please do not act like those evil dictators, like Alfred E. Perman, like, boys, where on earth is that mohawk? I want it destroyed. Yeah,
Elijah,
maybe
I'm also
Max,
excited.
you should have a snack because you're not yourself when you're hungry. Here, have a Snicker bar.
Guys, what would George Harrison say?
What?
And Beatles fan 100, what is your opinion on the British Railway diesel locomotives?
What would George Harrison say?
If I'm gonna be honest, they are
Hey,
all.
Elijah, you can't wait.
Brackets.
Also,
Please don't start this.
Yeah, I
Any-
know, I know.
Anyways, about British Rail, every time that I look at their stupid logo, every time they have disappointed me, including all of us, because of all their bad diesels that were made. And not everything that they made was bad. A lot
Everything
of them
that
were
they made was
a lot
bad.
of them were okay.
Some of
good,
them,
and
dude. Some
average.
of them. Think about it.
All
Some
of them
of
were
them were good.
the
Some of
worst,
them were not.
best, most average, and unknown opinions about them. But we're gonna make a side episode in the not too distant future about where we talk about more British diesels like the Class 35 Hamix, 37 Deltics, Class 55s, including the prototype that looks like an EMDE or an F unit, and also the Class 14 Teddy Bears in Mavis and Salty's basis and Daisy's basis soon.
Yeah,
The only
honestly, we can talk
good
about Daisy,
British
actually.
engine out there is probably.
But anyways, I
on the
gotta
Flying Scotsman.
go. Thank you for
All right,
watching
see
this
ya.
episode
Okay,
of
bye.
season 1,
Daily
episode 5
reminder
of
that
Crash
Come Home
Activity.
is
Bye.
great.
Hopefully,
All right.
guys, you'll
Bye.
watch this
See ya,
video. So
Bye.
that's all, folks.
Yep,
That's all,
for watching this
folks.
live.
That's all,
So
folks.
Bye, and
bye.
remember,
Have a good
brackets.
one.
And have a good school day.
Peace. God bless you all.
Peace.
That's all, folks.
Peace, brackets, brackets.
Look, this is